Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. Per the request of you all out there, we decided to start a new series and bring back videos and stories on Rudy's past. So this is probably about episode 1 of Financial Stories of Rudy's Past. Sit back, relax. If you want to know about some crazy things, and like they say, everybody in this world has a story, right? Okay, so today we're going to go back to young Rudy. We're going to start the story in about 2005. Okay, so in 2005, I had just finished, I was a mechanic turning wrenches at a car dealership, starting off as kind of the lube tech oil change boy, and I decided that I love vehicles and working on cars and souping up things, fast and furious and silly culture stuff, but I hated it as a career and what's involved with the pay system, with what they call billable hours and hourly rates and warranty pay versus customer pay and all this dealership stuff. If you want a video on that kind of stuff, I guess let me know below. So I went back to college. This is the very first time in the beginning of my financial journey where I went back to college to get a finance and do the whole corporate financial path of life. Well, I quit the car dealership, trying to turn wrenches and make my whopping, $8 an hour. And in college, I decided to go back to waiting tables and bartending in restaurants, slinging drinks, as they say. At that time in North Florida here in Jacksonville, there was some restaurants that I worked at. One of the restaurants, which is no longer here in North Florida, is called Buca de Beppo. Google it. It was an incredibly fun experience. But in this next restaurant I worked at, it was a high-end steakhouse here in North Florida. This was my first exposure to being around some wealthier, more successful people, which was something that I'd never been exposed to in life before. My parents obviously did the restaurant thing their whole life, and they did just fine, but I was never around a lot of crazy success and wealth and that mindset and money and how to handle money and how to have a good relationship with money and how money is a utility and it helps guide you and in the right hands what the power of money can do. And I never was aware, never taught any of this stuff. So this started when one night working in this restaurant, well, I had a 3-table section. I think it was probably a Friday, Saturday night, very busy and everything, and dressed real nice and all that, and haircut and all fancy in my outfit. And the manager came up to me and said, "Rudy, yeah, we have a high net worth. We have a big, very special customer coming in with a group of 10, 15 people, and they always sit in your table section, but he only requests one of the young 18-year-old, perfect 10 attractive waitresses, and so we're going to take you off that. You're not allowed to wait on this guy." And I was like, I can't wait on this table? I am not allowed to serve this table? What? So the manager swapped me off to with another young lady, which well, I guess later on eventually became my girlfriend, which is a different conversation. And she became the server of this section. And this party came in, and this head guy, Mr. Big Shot, came in with his wads of $100, insane, endless amounts of $100 bills and everything, and this crew of people he brought in, and he would just buy everything on the menu, didn't care, it was crazy. And I immediately became very infatuated with this situation, and very almost jealous and envious of this individual's success and the entourage with it, and this whole thing. I was very jealous of it, I guess you could say. I was very wowed. I was very curious. How does this work? How do you get to that level? And it was a very bizarre experience. And obviously we're going to pause the story there. Later on, I found out this individual's name, and the individual's name was called Wayne McLeod, which I think was McLeod or something was pronounced. I called him Wayne McLeod, and some of the other servers and people at the restaurant called him Wayne McLeod. I think his name was Wayne. Wayne, last name McLeod. Well, if you Google it, you're going to find out right now, this was back in 2006, if you Google that name and Google Wayne McLeod Ponzi or anything, you will see that he ran one of the largest Ponzi schemes in North Florida in history of North Florida. And he did it by swindling government employees, the DEA and the FBI. We have in North Florida here, 5 minutes from me, we have a big FBI headquarters and all this stuff. And apparently he got his clients and investors from government, police, FBI, DEA people. Yeah, can't make this stuff up. I always tell you guys, the real stories of real world are way better than fake stuff. So, I later found out that his success and all that money was, well, stolen money from customers and clients and people's retirement accounts, and ruined hundreds of people's lives who invested with this guy. So, at the time, nobody knew this. This was about 2006 when I was first exposed to this as a young Rudy, waiting tables, and had my little high school two-door coupe, and, you know, just waiting tables, going to classes and everything, trying to get a couple $100s and some extra money. And I know you're going to laugh, but, you know, the reason I worked so much is I worked like 6-7 days a week waiting tables was because I started getting addicted to buying old Magic cards. In the 2005 range was the first time that some other individuals and myself started buying PSA 10 Alpha cards and Magic cards. This was and I really wanted to buy them. So if I worked an extra shift and made an extra $100, you know, a PSA 10 Alpha Uncommon was like $100. A PSA 10 Alpha Rare for Magic the Gathering was $300 to $400 at the time. Give you an idea. So I was wanting to work a lot to take that cash, and I was living at home with my parents, and I was buying, well, graded Magic cards in 2005 when I started, which was considered a really dumb thing by everybody from family members to ex-girlfriends and co-workers, and was very looked down upon and ridiculed. Obviously, nobody says anything to me today. And so every time I'd go into work, so the first time I saw this thing happen, I was moved on the section, I was just so infatuated with, like, I don't understand this. And I remember asking the other servers and the waitresses and the girl on waiting tables on them, I asked this woman, I was like, so who is this guy? Oh, he's some big investor, Rudy. He's a big whale and all this investments. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, man, that's what I want to do one day. And I want to, you know, go to, so I'm in school right now to be an investor. And I said, so is he like a licensed, registered rep, Series 7, like, broker and everything for, you know, Wall Street? Does he have a Series 66 or Series 9 compliance? And, oh, yeah, he's got all that stuff. I said, oh, wow. You know, I want to get my licenses, and that's when I want to work at a brokerage firm. That was what I wanted to do, so I really became infatuated with it. And it was just, yeah. So anyways, fast forward, and of course, he would have dinner, and his dinner would be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for dinner. And he would tip the pretty young waitress, you know, $1,000 or $500 in a tip, just $100 bills, just crazy. And I remember then they'd leave, and I would just think about that. I thought I went to class the next day, and then I worked the next day, and I was just thinking, I was like, dude, what does it take? I went from the infatuation to the confusion. Because everyone else I was researching and talking to and of who's working in finance, or in North Florida here, we have the big boys, our Merrill Lynch, Fidelity, Deutsche Bank, TD Bank. We have a lot of big corporate campuses, buildings, and everything in Florida. And I remember talking to some friends in college and other professors and students, and it was like, you know, I don't understand how you can make that level of money. Like, that's not like, oh, congratulations, you're making $100,000 a year, 6 figures, which again, 20 years ago was a big deal. Remember that, folks. If you're making 6 figures 20 years ago, if you made $100,000 in 2006, that's probably equal to $200,000-300,000 today. Well, let's just kind of put that out there, especially with inflation. And I just remember going from that infatuation to really just like almost beyond infatuated to almost confused, curious, and suspicious, because I was like, how? I don't understand. I was envious. I was like, how do you get that? Is he just that good of a stock trader? Does he know how to time the market? Well, anyways, another one of the customers at this high-end steakhouse, I used to talk to every time they came in. This older couple, just 2 people, older guy and woman, who's retired. You're going to laugh. Retired from Boeing. And I know, ironic in today's standards. But in 2006, they retired from Boeing. And I remember I used to talk to them all the time. And they had all this, you know, their whole retirement account was in Boeing stock. And Boeing stock at the time was like $50 a share or something. And they were talking about this. Who's this Wayne guy? And they said, oh, Rudy, you don't know who Wayne is. And this retired older couple was like, oh, Rudy, this Wayne guy, he runs the most successful like almost like a hedge fund. He runs like a government bond fund. I was like, oh, so he doesn't sling stocks. He's a bond trader. I was like, my obsession is bonds, corporate bonds. I love bonds more than stocks. And I was like, really? He's, oh yeah, he has this big, municipal corporate, this government bond fund. I was like, okay, is it municipal or is it corporate? Those are very different bonds. One's government and many times tax exempt, and this is corporate, which is always taxable and very different. Which one is it? Oh, I don't know. He does all that. And I just remember being like, wow. So wait a minute. This guy who's running this business that everybody gives his money to invest is running a bond fund. It's like, whoa. Is he buying the bonds like at a discount below par value? And then he gets that extra yield and capital appreciation when it matures at par in 10, 20, 30 years? Is he doing some sort of hedging with like some sort of swaps or something with like interest rate swaps on his bond? How my brain, because that's all I was doing in school. I was studying this financial stuff. And when I took my first class, and I actually lost my interest in the stock market and became obsessed with the corporate bond market. And I learned that, people try to get rich in the stock market, but like people build wealth in the bond market. And I was really just getting really infatuated with this. And then that infamous moment came. Okay. Then this moment came. And then I said, okay, then they left for the night and they came back. And the little old couple retired from Boeing came back another, 2 weeks later. And I went, hey, how's it going? How you guys enjoying retirement? Oh, good, Rudy, And I asked him, I said, hey, by the way, you told me last time that Wayne McLeod had this bond fund, this government. Oh yeah, it's very, he's a very proprietary special thing. And, I'm starting to get very suspicious at this point. But again, I was young, I was dumb. Now I'm older, just a little less dumb. And I didn't have enough. I was just a college student, dead broke, waiting tables, trying to buy one magic card a week kind of thing. I didn't, I was not in a position to judge or understand what these professional, wealthy people who had made it were like. So that's when he came back and he said, oh yeah. And I said, I asked the guy, I said, the retired Boeing guy, I said, hey, do you know anything more about this bond fund? He said, oh, Rudy, he guarantees. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just use the G word? He guarantees? I said, bro. Anyways, so, and all of a sudden this guy says, oh yeah, 8 to 10% a year. No taxes. No tax form generated. Tax exempt. All in bonds. And I was like, I'm putting down, I don't know, a filet with, I don't know, with asparagus and, baked potato and, I don't know, I'm putting stuff on the table and I'm talking to him and I'm just like, how do you guarantee that? By the way, how do you not have a tax form? How do you, because I was literally in college this time. I just took my first or second corporate tax course. And on individual tax returns and corporate tax returns, I was in like my second or third level of tax classes. And I was really infatuated with the IRS and the tax system really infatuated me. I really enjoyed how the 1040 tax form for Americans is like this basic form. And then all the other forms on taxes are like spiderweb that link back and explain a different line. And I was like, so wait, the 1040 tax form is a basic form, but every line on that is essentially a number. And if you want to know where that number comes from, that's where all the other forms attached to it. And I was like, I just started becoming like really infatuated with taxes. That was my first experience to it. And I knew immediately one of two things. I said, man, and again, I'm in college. I'm young at this time. My instinct was, the guy's a genius. He clearly is successful. I'm waiting tables and broke and poor for a reason. I'm the brokey. I'm the poor guy. I'm the one waiting tables every night, trying to go to school and try to get an entry-level job for $30,000 a year. Who am I to judge the multi-millionaire who's doing all this stuff and clearly everybody loves him? Right? So I let it be. Because I was young. I just assumed he's clearly smarter than me and, I'm just a server in a restaurant. What do I know? So I remember going home and telling my parents about it after work and everything on the weekend. We'd be having dinner. I'd tell my parents, like, there's this guy, Wayne McLeod. He comes in. And my parents would look at me and they'd be like, wow, okay, well. And my dad, being my dad, would Google everything, beep, boop, 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 boop. And I just thought it was a crazy thing. And he just kind of said, well, clearly he's been doing it a long time and must be audited by the SEC quarterly or annual reports, and he clearly knows what he's doing. So, obviously, and then, I can tell this part. So then, I think it was like 6 months later, towards the end of the year. Or no, it was the beginning of the year, because it was Super Bowl time. I signed up to make some extra money, and at this high-end restaurant, you could come in the middle of the day before the restaurant opens at night. And for an extra $20, $30, you could drive to the restaurant, sit for 2 hours, and you could roll silverware in the bar area. And I signed up for that, and I enjoyed doing it. So it's like 3 days a week, in addition to waiting tables at night, I signed up to roll silverware. And I would get like $30, $35. And I liked it because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I could drive to the restaurant, sit in the bar by myself, and I would turn the TV on to CNBC, and I'd sit and roll silverware for 2 hours, watching the market, making $35. It's $15 an hour or something. I loved it. It was a great thing. It was easy. It was calming for me. And then all of a sudden, one day I go in to roll silverware. And all of a sudden, like all the girls and the waitstaff, all the young college chicks, everybody's working. And everyone's there. I walked in. I was like, did you all sign up to roll silverware? Like, I was super confused. Young, dumb Rudy was like, why is everybody here? And not only were they there, they weren't dressed. I was the only one in a uniform or dressed nice. Okay, sitting off to the side. All the chicks that came in, all these young, good-looking waitresses and all the guys that look all muscular and better looking than me, they were all dressed up. The chicks had little skirts, fancy little outfits, hair dolled up. The guys were all, you got the cool sunglasses on. And then I saw some of them had luggage and things with them. And I was like, all right. I walked in, and I'm just sitting here. I got the Rudy little, shorts on and some little old Nintendo shirt on or something. And I walked over to the bar to sit there. I started getting all the silverware, and I'm watching everybody. And I walked over, and I was still pretty new, so I was kind of shy. I know it's kind of weird to say Rudy was shy. And I said, excuse me, is there like a private party today? And he said, oh, no, we're all going to the Super Bowl. I said, huh? And I'm like holding the bins of silverware to make my $30. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to the Super Bowl? He said, oh, Wayne has the big stretch Hummer limo thing. I think it was a stretch Hummer or something. He's going to pull up here any minute. And we're all taking off to go to the Super Bowl. And I was like, is that local? Or I knew nothing. I didn't follow sports. And I was like, well, some had luggage. Maybe they're staying overnight or something. I didn't know what was going on. Super confused. Sure enough, 30 minutes fucking later, big old black fancy stretch limo pulls up. And all the chicks and everybody gets in the limo and they all leave. And one girl just said they were going to a Super Bowl. I don't know if that was the Super Bowl in Florida at the time maybe? Or was it out of state? I have no idea. So like 5, 10, 15 people. So I'm sitting there rolling silver going, what the hell is going on? And and then at that point, once again, I went back to my brain being, I was so jealous and envious of the success and the intelligence of this person who had literally, cracked the Da Vinci Code of corporate bonds and muni bonds and debt and management. And my little Rudy self is sitting off to the side, and all the chicks just left to go to some big thing in a limo, and I'm rolling silverware the next 2 hours watching my CNBC. I'll never forget that, man. That was a wild, and my brain was so confused for days. Anyways, so I left rolling silverware, went back home to my parents, and I was telling them what was going on, and studied a little bit, and then had an afternoon class at the campus at a University of North Florida, and I drove, and then I took off to go take the exam, and the whole time, that's all I was thinking about. And I was just like, man, I just hope one day I can get in tune enough with like the markets to understand, opportunities of buying and selling and the interest and the yield. And I think what it was is the combination of intrigue and jealousy and envy, but at the same time, it made me feel so stupid. I think that's the part that it converted me over, because I felt like the loser, and I felt like the stupid waiting tables, like nobody gives little Rudy the time of day thing. It was such a weird dynamic of back and forth because your brain is trying to process these things that you've never been exposed to in your whole life. So anyways, we'll stop there. 2 years later, or 4 years later, I don't know, 2007 hits. I get my corporate bachelor's. I get my bachelor's degree, corporate finance, all this stuff. Get my first financial job at a brokerage firm. Okay. 2009 hits, or 2008 hits. Everything starts going to hell and crashing. And apparently, Wayne McLeod starts having problems with money and withdrawals because the markets were tanking. And whenever you have a market crash, similar to the Magic the Gathering world and the card world, CCG world, we went through a 2-year bear market of 2022, 2023. Whenever we have that drawdown, you have a vacuum out of the market. People who need capital, people who are afraid of losing all the capital, and people who have no confidence in the future, everybody just starts liquidating, wanting they don't care about the loss. They want any money they can out. And word on the street is that Wayne McLeod and his government bond fund starts having problems and running out of money. At this time, I had left the first brokerage firm, and I went to the second brokerage firm. And the second one that I got a job at the beginning of 2008, great timing for me for starting a career, I ended up staying at this brokerage firm for a very long time. I stayed there for 2008, 9, 10, 11, I left in 2012, so I was there for almost 5 full years, like 4.5 years. And at this firm I had, obviously Series 7, Series 66, and Series 66 is what they call the Uniform Combined Securities license. So a Series 66 means you have a Series 63 and 65 combined. The 66 is just a bundle of that. So I had my licenses. I was a licensed broker with all my fancy screens, and I didn't really solicit new clients. I was managing with a lot of other people. There was like thousands of accounts, and there was a group of us that would manage the thousands of accounts. So I didn't really do the cold calling or anything like that. We just serviced, and we would reach out to. We would run different metrics, but I think it's a different video for if you guys want to hear about that. But anyways, I was going to lunch, I think it was, and I left the campus, and you know me. At the time, in North Florida, we had Qdoba, also known as Qdoba. We all called it Qdoba. And it's a Mexican, kind of like a Chipotle, but they had like the best queso and like grilled steak, and they built this nacho thing with melt cheese, put queso and grilled steak on it. It was amazing. So we'd all go to lunch at Qdoba, Mexican Grill, which we don't have anymore. They went out of business because they were idiots that ran the place. They were morons. I remember that. They were a bunch of goofballs that did drugs. They were idiots. We'd go in there, and sure enough, they ran to the ground, went out of business. I'm eating my, I know, life always comes back to getting food. I know, it always comes back to tacos. So I'm eating my nachos and tacos, and my phone rings. And I didn't recognize the number. I don't remember who it was or whatever. And they said, "Hey, Rudy." I said, "Yeah." They said, "Do you remember Wayne McLeod?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, he's deceased." I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Well, he was running a Ponzi scheme. And I know you talked about him years ago, how you were very envious of this guy, and you were so envious of his success." And he said, "Yeah, you can't really say certain things on YouTube, but you can Google it and see how he passed away." I can't say those words because YouTube is weird about that. Apparently, through 2008 and 2009 with the withdrawals and the crash, he couldn't fund all the withdrawals because obviously Ponzi scheme, and he blew all the money. And by 2010, he gave up. He went to an area near that I live, and he went to a park, and a fancy park in our area in North Florida, and he's now deceased. So, the weird thing about this story, and the most important thing we all need to learn from this, is the human desire for that image and the shortcuts to success and wealth, and how some people will go at any distance to do it, including just straight up taking people's retirement accounts and stealing people's money. And from that point, after I learned that, all I thought of this whole time was when I was rolling that silverware a couple years ago, all the chicks and the servers and the guys that were going on these Super Bowl trips, that was paid for by other people's retirement accounts. There was no bonds. I felt stupid and jealous of how successful and smart he was in the corporate bond market. And yet, he never did anything with bonds. And sure enough, 8 to 10% a year guaranteed, no taxes. Once again, too good to be true. Turned out to not be true. You know, on this channel, I've always talked to you all about how the goal for prudent and risk management and just the safe, stable path forward should be 6 to 9% a year. Should be your goal to help grow your investments and your wealth every year. And I've always told you all, whenever anyone starts promising extraordinary double-digit returns, some special thing, and you know, you should always be very cautious of that. People who are trying to sell you on the monthly CD of this is how I can make you rich, you know, you need to be very careful on that stuff. You know, I have a monthly Patreon I try to sell you on. But if you sign up with Patreon, you get to talk to me and ask questions, and sometimes you can buy cards from me. That's what my Patreon is. Obviously, all the patron accounts bigger than mine and smaller than mine, according to Patreon, when I talk to them every once in a while. The top 10 accounts above my account size on Patreon, and the next 10 accounts below my size are all actually women in the adult industry with adult Patreon accounts. I'm the only one without it. Should I do an OnlyFeeds? OnlyFeed. Anyways, and I guess I realized all along that, dude, when I was so, like, I felt so dumb waiting tables for a little bit of money when this dude was like this bond guru, trading bonds and making all this money, and you know, looking back, even I should have known better that, you know, that wasn't possible. But again, you know, I don't blame myself, because when you're young and in college and all you care about is girls and trying to make money and, well, trying to buy an Alpha card, you're not smart enough. You don't have enough life experiences when you're that young. But I guess part of me is surprised that all the people who were giving him money to invest, how are they, who I would assume a lot of them were more informed, how are they not suspicious? And I can't believe the dude only targeted government families, like FBI, DEA families, and police. Like, though he held all these seminars, I remember hearing about them. He would advertise and hold these seminars for only, you know, FBI, you know, police officers, and, you know, the drug enforcement, this and that, and ATF, and, you know, all these 3-letter acronyms. He would hold these seminars, but only for people of that caliber. And I was like, whoa. So, man, he's very selective. And again, you know, my young self was just very, wow, dude, man, he selects who he allows. Like, it was such a weird thing, you know? And, you know, I'd never been exposed to any of this stuff before, so I was so blown away that this kind of stuff went on, you know? And, of course, you know, later on, you know, it was crazy that later on we find out that, you know, the Super Bowl stuff and these parties, all these servers, and when he came into the restaurant, all these hundreds, that was all other people's money from their retirement. Like, that's, to this day, blows my mind, you know? And I remember that, and it was just such a weird thing. Oh, I gotta say this. So, like, even Lindsay, my better half right now, she was a massage therapist for his wife. Like, his wife would come in, and the wife used to always yip yap and everything. And she did that for a little bit, for just like these 2 or 3 women and everything, very select thing. And I remember her telling me about, like, this big mansion that Wayne had on the water. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you know, and it was such a weird thing. And I just remember her telling me about this big house with, like, the big TVs and artwork and everything. And I was like, and, you know, young Rudy once again was like, man, that's incredible, you know. And it's just, I guess, the moral of all this stuff and the key takeaway to it. And again, if you guys want to research or, I guess, see what's out there, if you Google Wayne McLeod, McLeod, space Ponzi, press enter on Google, there is literally a 140-page investigative report by the government on like the second Google result, and you can read the whole history. And I actually discovered the other day, I didn't even know that was online. I thought it was cool. And that's what kind of sparked me, dude, I got to talk about it. And I guess the ending of this video is, I think he could have had similar success if he was more patient and willing to play the long game. I think the desire to shortcut everything, and it always comes back to that. It's the whole wanting to shortcut life. Because, you know, I look back now and I was like, dude, I waited tables for so many years in restaurants. I did so many years in a car dealership turning wrenches. And I look at that and I say, well, how would I feel doing that today? And the thought of going back to doing that today is it almost gives me anxiety of, oh no. But we as humans, none of us really want to do that. No server in a restaurant wakes up and said, yes, I worked today. I should go in 3 hours early, sit in the parking lot. I am so excited. Like, nobody does that. They look at it as they're trading their time to wait on tables, hence the term waiting tables, to try to get money and provide a service. That's all you're doing. You're trading your time for a service in return for some financial compensation. That's all it really is. And I think it lures in a lot of people because, and I think today it's a lot worse. Because I think about that too. Because I was like, if I was young right now, in 2024 standards, and I saw someone like Rudy on YouTube, and all the boxes and the sides of the Rudy Alpha Investment Empire, like I would feel probably the same way. Like an envy or a jealousy or a frustration or what is he doing that I'm not? Or how can I learn this and then? It makes sense. I can definitely see, you know, like why people get that or why people have a dislike and hatred towards me or other YouTubers. And then on top of that, you have a culture now with Instagram and all these, you know, these dating things and these shorts and TikToks and YouTube shorts now. And it's filled with beautiful chicks dancing around in skimpy outfits. And if I was a young single guy struggling and broke like I used to be, and I look back at that, like that would almost be very frustrating. And there'd be times that'd be very tough because it's like, look how shitty my situation is. And I look online of all these millionaires in private jets with 15 exotic cars and all these hot chicks around them. And it would be very, almost demoralizing, you know? But the moral of the story is, I want everyone out there to understand, there are tremendous successful people out there. There are people who are well off and have built awesome businesses, and they've invested in cards and bonds and stocks, and they've done well. I've done very well, okay? And there are people out there who've done a million times. I'm a nobody in the grand scheme of things. There are people that make me look homeless. And yes, there are success stories, but remember, when you look at a lot of these videos, and especially if they want to sell you on a $1,000 10-step program to building wealth or flipping houses or how to day trade and get the perfect green candle and avoid the red dildo candle and how to, the Bollinger Band, we got to wait, this is my entry point, this is my exit point, I just made 10 grand in 5 seconds, I'm done for the day, I'm going to the beach. I see it too. We all do. But this story is a reminder to most of you all out there that things that are too good to be true are. People who have any shortcuts in life, it's probably not a shortcut, and it's probably not realistic. And I want you all to understand that, you know, what you see in my situation is a result of over 20 years. I started when I was, actually, I guess, 16, 18. I'm 39. It took 20 years of no vacations, no traveling, you know, getting a lot of pushback from family, friends, exes, coworkers. Rudy just works all the time. He can't do anything. There was a lot of time trade-off and sacrifice to get to what you see today. And I want you all to understand that no matter where you are on that spectrum of life and finance and happiness, you can progress and you can improve and you can move up that, but it takes time to do it properly. It takes time. You should be doubling your money every 5 to 10 years. Okay, sure, cryptos and bitcoins and stock markets and memes and leverage and 3x leveraged funds and margin and loans and, you know, these little tiny weird altcoins that you can buy for memes. And sure, you can throw the dice, but I don't consider that investing many times. A lot of that is you're throwing the dice. If you're an options trader and you're trying to buy and sell puts and calls to kind of, because all those are is 100x leverage, they represent 100 shares kind of thing, and you're trying to battle the Greeks of the thetas and the rates of change and the time decay, and you should really reflect on why you're doing that. And I think you're doing that because you want a shortcut, and you don't want to accept that the correct path is long and treacherous, unsexy, boring, and you will be ridiculed and criticized. I assure you, I have been there, and that's what happened to me. And even when you make it, people are going to turn around and think, oh, he must have been giving it to him. He must be a trust fund baby. Oh, he had it easy. You're going to have stories and things made that are so far from the truth that the internet will believe what the internet's going to believe. The internet and other people will just make up videos, make up stories that you did this, you did that, or we did this, or they helped that, or he had it easy because of ABC. And for some people on the internet, maybe it's true. But for most people out there, it's not true. Most people out there, they had to do a major trade-off and sacrifice. And this story of the Wayne McLeod and the Ponzi scheme and Rudy's past and everything is a friendly reminder to everybody out there that, you know, I was able to find my way. And you're talking about a guy who barely graduated high school, C's get degrees, wasn't supposed to go to college, and I did oil changes and waited tables for most of my teenage to 20s. My majority of 16 to 26 years old was either spent under a car or holding drinks and food plates. So I would just want people to be aware, don't deviate and give in to the allure of gambling, shortcuts, or just flat out stealing and doing bad things. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to buy a stock that goes down. You buy a box of cards that goes down. Not everything's going to work out. The goal is to get more things right than we get wrong. And if you live by that mentality long term, it will work out. Remember, you can't just work hard about it. You need to be smart about it. I know a lot of people in this world that work very, very hard. 40, 50, 60, 100 hours a week. Sleep on the office floor. There's a lot of people who do that. But working hard does not mean you're going to have that freedom, success, and moving forward. You have to have a combination of a drive and passion to move forward. And you have to be willing to do very hard work. But you have to be willing to do that work, but be smart about it. I know a lot of people, and there are millions of Americans and hundreds of millions of people around the world that work their entire life, and they work their ass off. And they will have nothing to show for it, and they will never get ahead, because while they worked hard, they may either A, just have a bad situation, B, they may not make the right decisions with the yield of money they get from that work, or 3, they're in a bad situation that needs to be changed or moved. There are other variables that even if they work hard, will not allow them to progress. And unless they're able to recognize that and figure out a way to change that. And for most people, 99%, there's always going to be exceptions. For most people, there is always a way. Not everybody. I'm going to be honest with you all, and no one else is going to say it. There is probably 1% of people out there that simply put, they got a bad hand in life with bad health, a situation, and they got fucked. And it's honestly a really crappy thing in this world. There is a small piece of human beings that were either born to something so bad or have a disability or something, and they do not have a fair shot. Unfortunately, for those individuals, it's an absolute frustrating thing in this world. But for 99% of you out there, working hard and then doing the right thing with the results of that and trying to listen and learn and figure out your niche or passion will most likely have a high probability of leading you to some path of opportunity. And that's the key. You know, that's when I look at my stocks, when I look at trading cards, bonds, real estate, Bitcoin, any of this stuff, things are always going to go wrong. You know, the worst thing I had was in trading cards. What was the worst thing I had in Magic? Let's pick on Magic. So in Magic, the worst loss I probably had would probably be the collector boxes. Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt, Boulder's Gate, you know, I lost so much money on keeping the Rudy position on those new products. After selling some to patrons, I kept the rest for myself, and I just got annihilated. But that is something I accept the risk for, and I accept that. I still believe moving forward it will be okay. And I have that mindset because I simply just believe that. Okay? Because of that, I continue to stay the course with many things in my life. And, well, to end this video, which means we're finally going to end it, to give you guys a good ending, because I chose to stay the course, even with all those losses, Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt, Boulder's Gate, all these things, and losing hundreds of thousands as collectors, I stayed the course when nobody else did through a 2-year crash of 2022 and 2023. And now, in the last 6 months, the reward in the recovery and the success I've had with Lord of the Rings, Summer and Holiday Special, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Ravnica, moving for Wilds of Eldraine, you know, and of course Fallout for a little bit I was able to get. You know, I was rewarded with a lot of other things that were successful. Carl of Manor, once again, I'm stuck with it, taking heavy losses. So again, the difference between me and most of you all out there, in my opinion, is not when good or bad things happen. It's how I react to when things go down or when things happen. My reaction will be different than the average person. Now, whether that's because you think I have more money and capital to weather the storm, there's truth to that. But it's because the number one thing is because I believe I have the ability to outweight most of you all. And I believe because I am more patient and I believe longer that I will have the upper edge in the long run. I'm not the smartest. I don't have the ability to predict everything. But I do know I have a strong mindset to push forward no matter how much people bash me, how much patrons sign up or close their account, or how happier people are. No matter what comes at it, I have the ability to keep the taco hat on, and I push forward. And I know, and I still believe, over the next 12 months, the next 12 Magic sets that come out, I bet 1 or 2 more of them fail. But I also bet you all 9 to 10 of them are going to be incredibly successful, and it will make those 1 or 2 failures not mean anything. And you all, I shouldn't say you all, some of you all out there, you focus on, oh, look how bad it went down. And it did go down, and it did go bad, and you are right. But the difference is I don't fixate on the one thing I got wrong. I say, okay, why did that go wrong? What did we learn from it? What can I look out for next time? Okay, then I go over here and say, okay, all the things I got right. Why did I get that right? Well, I didn't do anything different than the thing I got wrong. Just the market forces went against me. Okay, so why did I get Ravnica Remastered? Why was that one incredibly successful and profitable for me? Well, because I stayed the course and just did what nobody else wanted to, because everybody thought it was going to become Carlos Manor, or everybody. So essentially, I did nothing different. I just continued to believe. And that's a good mindset to have for anybody out there who wants to start a business of anything. Pressure washing, lawns, mechanics, plumber, electrician, welding, AC, and electric. You can be a master of any field. And if you do it long enough, you will figure it out. And the money will be a byproduct. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of Rudy's Financial Stories. If you like this channel and if you like this type of videos, leave a comment below, obviously. I don't give a shit if you subscribe or hit the thumbs down and scrolly bird circles. If you ever want to support me, I always have a few open patron slots for how many people left in the crash. And consider supporting me on Patreon. You can send me private messages. You get to watch all the craziness behind the scenes when I run sales and launches. And if you want to buy something sometimes, you can. Other than that, thanks for watching. And I hope at least somebody out there by tomorrow morning who watched this today actually remembers this and it helps them. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Oh yeah, penis.